After explaining wire method to call Apex methods in LWC, the next thing I wanted to discuss is the imperative way of calling Apex. But before we deep dive into this other way of calling Apex, I just wanted to highlight a few of the core JavaScript things, such as functions, arrow methods, and callbacks in JavaScript. So for that, like in the previous sessions, in my first session of this course, like I have mentioned like how to declare a method inside a class. So we can declare a method inside a class like this. We have declared plenty of methods till now. But in JavaScript, like methods came first. After that, the class syntax came into the picture. So earlier it was all about function based. So now in JavaScript, we can even declare methods outside the class, and we can also declare methods inside the methods. So I would again repeat the same thing. We can declare a method inside a method. In Apex, you have seen, if you are aware of Apex, if you are not very much aware of Apex, that's completely fine. But if you know Apex, then you have seen like we declare methods and then we call the methods inside another method. We cannot just declare one method inside another method. So we cannot do that in Apex. But in JavaScript, we could do we could even declare a method body inside another method. So there are not this is one of the ways to declare methods in JavaScript, and this is a class syntax. And in the class, we declare methods using this syntax. It's a core JS thing. So now we can declare methods outside the class, but the syntax is a little different for that. So if I copy and paste this outside the class, we can see this red line, this error. This is not a correct syntax. To correct it, what we can do is like we can either add this function keyword. We can either add this function keyword here to declare a method outside the class, or the other thing, other approach to declare a method outside the class is we can create a variable. We could either use here var, we can use let or const. So let's go with the let. I'll give my arrow method. This syntax is known as arrow method. So here what we need to do is we just create a method like this. So we could do it like this is a variable. This is how we create variable, like we have explained in previous sessions. Like we declare variables using either let or var, or we could create it as a constant. So here this is a variable and this is the method. So it's not like whatever this method is returning, we are just assigning it to this variable. In JavaScript, what we can do is we can declare a method and then we can assign the method body and the method declaration into this variable, and then we can use this variable to call this function. So here what we are doing is we created a arrow function and we assigned the whole function declaration into this variable, and then we can use this variable to call this as method. So now this is possible outside the class. We could do this outside the class and we could do this inside the method. We cannot do it in the class. This is an incorrect syntax. But we can declare functions, methods using this function keyword or using this arrow method syntax. We could declare it outside the class or we can declare it inside the methods. This is a legitimate syntax. We can do it inside this JavaScript class here. So now this is not just a syntactic sugar that we could declare functions like this and like this. There are some differences also to declare the functions using this way or declare the functions using this way. We will talk about the differences also. So there is one more thing now I wanted to highlight. Like right now we are already, since we are already aware of like what is connected callback, like when it is called. So I'm just gonna declare one connected callback here. So when the page loads, I want to call this method, my method. So before we jump into the differences between these two methods, I wanted to highlight what a callback is. So since we can assign this function to a variable, uh, and we can pass variables as a method parameters, like we are aware of that, this thing, right? We pass variables from function, one function to another function. So here in JavaScript, what we can do is we can pass a function also. Like I would give a name here, my callback function. So here this parameter is expecting a function. This method is expecting one function here. So we can call this function like this. So this is known as a callback function. So now when we are calling this method, in its parenthesis we are supposed to pass one function. Like we have declared this function here, we could pass it like this, or we could pass this method like this. This is one thing, and the methods that we are passing as a method parameters, and we are calling these functions inside the method that where we are passing it, is known as the callback function. So this function which is passed as a method parameter is known as the callback function. So now the one more thing about this JavaScript thing which is unique to JavaScript, we can declare methods inside a method, but we can declare methods even inside the parentheses also. Either I can declare, either I have declared this method here, I can either use this method, or I can even declare this method in the method parameter itself. That is completely a legitimate thing to do in the JavaScript. We can even declare a method body inside this method parameters. So these functions are known as the named function, because this function has a name. This function has a name, my method, and this function has a name, my arrow method. We could even have a functions, we could even declare the functions without the names. Those are known as anonymous function. Even if we look closely here, this is just a variable name, and this is the anonymous function, a nameless function. We assigned it to this variable. So what we could do is, like, we can declare a function here, function body here itself, instead of creating a function separately and then passing it here. We can even declare this function right way here. No red line, no syntax issue. So this is a completely legitimate thing. So it's up to you whether you want to go with this function keyword or you want to go with the arrow methods. So here, like, either we could declare this function like this, and we could go with the arrow methods like this. Now these function doesn't have a name. So this is an anonymous function. This function which is passed as a method parameter doesn't have a name, because this function body will be assigned to this variable, and this will be called inside my method. And now one thing is, like, if we want a parameters into the functions, like, you know that we do it like this. And in the function also, if this method is expecting a parameter, we could do like pass like parameters like this, param1 and then param2 here, like this. And same goes for the arrow methods here. If in the arrow methods I want to pass a parameters, I could pass parameters like this. But one thing that I wanted to highlight is, like, if there is one parameter only, then we don't even need these round brackets. We can completely get rid of this brackets, and now we don't have round brackets, and this is also a arrow function syntax. So if there is one parameter, we don't need those round brackets. But if parameters are more than two, we cannot just add comma and add param2. Now you see we are having a syntax issue. So if a parameter is more than one, we need to have the round brackets. So now here let's talk about now we know that what is named function, and what are the other ways to declare function. We can either declare a function with this function keyword, or we could use this arrow method syntax, and what are anonymous function. And now let's talk about what is the difference between you declaring function using the function keyword, and what is the difference between this function keyword and this arrow method syntax. For that, what we can do is, like, let me create a class level property, my class prop, This is a class variable. So now if I want to print this, like I would have a console log here. So I will pass my class prop here, and if we want to call class level properties, we have to use this keyword here. Similar way, we have to use this for this method. Okay, so now what we are doing is this: when the page loads, what is going to happen is, when the page load, this connected callback will be called, and it is going to call my method, and this function we are passing this as a method parameters, and it is coming here, and it is being called here in at line number 18. It's being executed. So now let me deploy this, and now I have created this Aura app, and I have already called this LWC, and now let's preview it. It printed the variable. Simple thing. So I defined a method body here. I pass this as a method parameter here, and then it is going to this methods, and we are calling this as a normal function. We could do it like this, or we could declare it in a separate line. Like here we can declare it using like arrow method const my callback method, and this method is declared like this, and now we can pass this variable here. Now it's the same thing. Either we can declare this function separately, and then we can pass it here. Now we are not, you see, we are not calling this function. Well, whenever we call the function, we call it using these parentheses. We are not using circular bracket here. We are not calling this method. We are just passing this method. So just one more time, I'm comparing this with Apex. In Apex, it's not possible. We cannot just pass methods here and there in Apex. Either we declare methods or we call them. That's it. But in JavaScript, we can declare methods and we can just pass it around. So here, like, this method body is passed to this variable, and this variable is passed here. We don't have parentheses. We are not calling this here, and after this we in the method we are calling this. Like, this is called as callback because we gave them a method, so they will execute. So my method will decide when to execute, how to execute, and what parameters to pass here. So currently we don't have a parameter here. So let's say my method has like 10 numbers of logic, and once that logic is executed, at the end they just want to call back. They just want to call this function and pass the parameters whatever decided after those calculations. So currently, like we have seen, if we print this console log, and if we are printing this class level property here, and if I reload the page, it will simply print it. This is the class variable. Simple thing. So now what we can do is, instead of making this as a arrow method, what we could do is we can just declare this function using the function keyword. Now let's try to do the same thing using the function keyword. Either we can have this function keyword like this, we can declare it like this, or we can just cut it from here, paste it here. I'll just get rid of the name because now it doesn't make any sense, because we are not going to use this name anywhere. We can just simply remove this name. Now it is anonymous function, declared even the parenthesis of my method. So now if I reload it, you see we are getting error. It should print this console log, but right now it is throwing an error. My class property cannot read properties of undefined because this is undefined here. If we want to call, if we are using this function keyword, we need to remember this thing. It cannot access class level this here. Functions have their own this. So if you want, in the functions, we can declare like where this keyword should point. Currently this always points to the instance of this class, but here this won't point to the class. It is currently undefined. We can define it, like in JavaScript we have this way of calling methods. I can use call, and then in the call I can pass the method parameter here. So now let me just deploy it. So now here what I have done is I just mentioned like where this keyword should point. So this keyword should point class levels this. So now I have defined this right now. Hope this is not too much confusing, but right now I am just pointing this keyword to the class level instance. But we could even change it in the if we are using this function keyword, we can even change it. Right now it is gonna point to the class level this, but now right now it will point to the class level this, but we can change it also. Right now if I reload this page, now you see we can see the value, because we have mentioned that where this keyword should point. So to explain it furthermore, what I can do is my object. Let me create this object here. So now I would create a property here. I would create a key here, my class prop, or let me create another my obj prop equal colon, and I would give a value. This is a class object, or this is, I would say this is an object. This is an object value. Okay, so now instead of passing this, what I can do is I can pass this dot my object, and now instead of expecting this my class prop, I can use my object prop here, and now let me deploy it. Now it should print this is an object value, even though if we want to access this, we need to go it like this dot my object dot my object prop. But here it is just simply using this, because this keyword is not going to point to this class. This keyword is now going to point to this object, because we mentioned here we are mentioning where this keyword inside this function to point this keyword to this my object. Oh, too many this, man. I'm reloading this page. So this is pointing to this is an object value. I really hope like we have done too much this here, so hope this is not confusing. You understood like how to change the value of this. Like this is not always going to point to the class. We can modify the value of this keyword if we are going to use with the if you're going to do with the function keyword. But the same is not possible with the arrow methods. Arrow method, we cannot modify the value of this keyword. Like if instead of this function, if I just make it arrow method here, and now if I'm deploying it, now let's see what happens. Oh, now let me reload the page. Now this is undefined, because this keyword in arrow method would always point to class. But if we are using the function keyword, we could change the pointer of this keyword, like whether it should point to class or whether it should point to some other object. I really hope it's clear. Now, so this is the major difference between function keyword and declaring a method using arrow methods. Okay, so now in the callback method, what we can do is like we could pass values here. Like in the callback functions, what we are gonna do is, so in the coming session we are going to do this a lot. We are going to use callbacks functions a lot, so that's why we just have a fair amount of understanding what happens in the callback method. So here when we have declared the method, we can pass a parameter. Like we can pass, let's say we can pass this, we can create one method parameter as a result. So before even doing this in the method parameter, what we can do is to explain it. Let's declare this my callback method. So here, instead of not passing anything, let's create one parameter. So when we call this method, one parameter we're going to pass, and we will print this method. So now we can just simply pass it here. So here in the calling, we can pass a method parameter. This is the result. So now if we reload the page, we got this. This is the result. So this is how the method parameters works in the callback function. So we are going to use this callback thing a lot. Even we are going to use this in the promises that we will be using in calling the apex imperatively. So that's why I'm just highlighting it. So instead of declaring it separately, we can make it little easier. Instead of having a separate function, we can declare it in the function parenthesis, and we can just deploy it. Now it should work the same way. So this is all about like declaring functions in JavaScript or LWC. Like one way of declaring function is this way, not using arrow method syntax, not using function keyword. We can just declare a name of the function and then this round brackets, and a function is declared. Other approach is using the function keyword, but this can be declared outside the class or inside the method of a class, but cannot be declared inside the class directly. One is this function keyword, other one is this arrow syntax here. And in arrow syntax, one thing to remember is that we are going to use a lot in the future is if there is one parameter, I won't be using these round brackets. So if there is a one parameter, you will see a syntax like this. If there are more than one parameter, we are going to use a syntax like this. These are the three ways we can declare functions in JavaScript. And then what is a callback function? A function which is passed as a method parameter, and then it is being called, is known as the callback function. And this is how we use it. This is how we use the callback function. So if you have any question, any confusion, any doubt, or any suggestion, please do mention in the comment section below, and I will respond to each and every comment whenever or as soon as possible. So stay tuned for the next session. Thank you so much.